This is KUGAN CASSIUS for Eiffel TV in association with Macklin's in Marbella. With me, I have Frank Warren. How are you, Frank?
I'm okay, mate. A little bit of flu, like everybody's got at the moment. Hopefully shaking it off now.
Everyone's got this bug at the moment.
It's not good. Not good.
It's not the time of the year for it.
No.
Okay, a few things to talk about. First of all, next week obviously was meant to be Derry and Terry. We've had to postpone that, but not by long, only a month, 12th of March. Flanagan sustained an injury. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, Frank?
Yeah, he pulled a tendon in his foot, and he gave him tendonitis, and apparently he couldn't put his weight on it. Had MRI scans and so forth. Anyway, doctor said he's got to take a couple of weeks off, which he's done, so we've had to push the fight back. We could have found a replacement opponent for Derry, but I felt that they felt that he would be ready to fight within a month, that it was appropriate to just push the whole show back and delay it for until March the 12th now, which is what we've done.
I read some comments from Derry Matthews suggesting that this is not a legitimate injury.
No, it is a legitimate. Listen, I don't want to be paying for venues twice, paying hotel deposit hotel. I mean, please, if it is, then I don't know about it. But it's the show will go on as planned. It was a cracking show. We've got some really good fights on, and we've got a couple of great additions on the show as well.
Yeah, we'll come on to that obviously, okay. But it gives you obviously an extra month as well to, like I said, promote the show, and sort of said we'll talk about the additions you've got, which I think people will be excited about. So, all right, Frank. There was obviously some big news yesterday that Amir Khan will face Canelo-Alvarez. It was a massive shock. I don't think a lot of people saw it coming up until yesterday, a few whispers in the morning. But first of all, what do you make of that?
Well, it's a bit disappointing really, because we were quite down the road for Liam Smith to be fighting him on that date. But obviously HBO had pushed the fight. I think with the fact that Amir had been out for a while, he's lost the two opportunities against Pacquiao and against Mayweather. The fact that there is a deal in place with Amir and HBO, and they've invested a lot of obviously money and time in it, and that got priority over Liam. I can, from their point of view, understand that, but from our point of view, obviously we're disappointed. But word is, in the conversation I had last night, if everything's okay, then Liam can get a shot at him in September.
So you're still hopeful that fight can be made?
Liam keeps winning. Liam's a good young fighter, and I've said it on many occasions, and I know that's really going in at the top, but he needs fights that he can get up for, and he'd get well paid for the fight. But they're fights that he's got a good chance. In my opinion, got a good chance of winning. I know people might say, "Oh, you're crazy, it's Alvarez," but Liam's a better fighter than people give him credit for.
What do you make of the weight situation regarding this fight? Obviously, Amir Khan's had about 3 fights at 147. Alvarez is a light middleweight at 154. This is being made at 155, but this is for the middleweight title. I mean,
well, it can't be. You can't be above the limit, so it can't be for the title. Listen, it's a good fight. They're obviously they're obviously Alvarez's people, to make it all as far as they're concerned in their favour. Amir, where does he go? He needs a big fight. That's a big fight for him. So they're holding a lot of the aces as far as that's concerned. So they'll make it at the weight that suits Alvarez. The same way that Mayweather made it at the weight when he fought Alvarez that suited him. He killed Alvarez to make, weight-wise, didn't he? He had to get quite a bit off to fight him. So, I get that. It's a tough fight for Amir, but listen, he's been around a long time now, and what's he gonna do? He's got to fight tough fights. That's where he's at, and you've got to take his hat off to him for stepping up to the challenge.
But I mean, on the night, obviously, Amir Khan has not fought at that weight before.
No, he hasn't.
What Alvarez will come in at as well.
Well, you've got to think that their logic will be that his speed will negate what Alvarez has got. Whether it does or not is another issue. But the fact is that they're probably looking at the fight that Mayweather had against him, and the speed that Mayweather got. And one thing about Amir, he's got good pace, he's got good speed. But Alvarez, I think, has come on a bundle since the Mayweather fight. It's a tough fight. But you know, he's one thing about Amir. You can't say he's not lacking, and that's in the old ticker department. He's got plenty of heart.
I know a lot of people obviously giving Amir a lot of criticism about the Kell Brook fight. People accusing him of sort of avoiding that fight, but one thing, if you look down at Amir Khan's resume, the opponents
There's
he's
no
been
comparison
in
with
yeah.
the opponents that Amir Khan's fought compared to what Kell's fought. There was no comparison. He's fought at much higher level and better class than Kell's fought. But the bottom line of it is the reason the fight's not been made is purely over money. And you've got to think to yourself, when promoters are saying that fight's a bigger fight than Froch, apologies, Froch,
Yep.
and George Groves. When you look at that, they get it in their head that they should be getting tens and 15 million pounds, which in this day and age for British fighters is, I mean, I can't say but it is a real rarity that would ever happen. They should be on results, but I think Amir thinks he's bringing more to the table than Kell Brook, and I suppose up to a point you've got to agree with that because he brings the American TV interest and so forth. But he's chosen to take in my opinion, a much harder fight, going up a weight and fighting what you would call a real proven quality fighter who's fought at the elite level. So you can't say he's lacking in the ticket department.
Absolutely not. All fair play to him, and like I said, on the night it might be a difference of about 3 or 4 weights. So.
Well, exactly, yeah. Well, I'm sure there'll be some things about after they weigh in what they're allowed to put on and so forth. But the fact is, Alvarez is going to be a big favourite going into the fight. We all understand that.
Another story that's come out in the last week is Frank Bruno.
Look, Frank was at football with me. Well, not with me. I'll see him at the Arsenal last weekend at the Burnley game, at the FA Cup game. He looks in tremendous condition. I've seen some of the photographs and the training, but he's 54 years of age. So let's all get real. It's all very fanciful. And if you actually look at that interview, what was said on there,
yeah.
He didn't say he was coming back. He said he likes boxing, and then he never actually said, I am coming back. He said something about a licence and whatever. But the bottom line of it is, he's not going to get licensed by the Boxing Board of Control. His age is against him. Everyone will be up in arms about it. It's just not going to happen. It's well documented his issues that he's had with his mental health, and he's been a great ambassador for mental health and so forth. And he's just not going to fight. It doesn't mean he shouldn't be involved in boxing. He's got a lot to give. And I think he lost his way after he retired. For all sorts of things. It's well documented. He's smoking a lot of dope and stuff, and the gear you're smoking these days, was it skunk and all that, whatever it is, it's far stronger than what it was 30, 40 years ago. And all these do-gooders who say having a bit of puff, it should be legalised, they should look at stuff like this, because the stuff that they're smoking now does produce, in some people, a lot of paranoia and causes mental issues, and I think that was part of it with Frank. I think that's what actually led to his mental deterioration. But he's not going to fight. I think he looked fabulous. You look at him, he's great.
He's training with Ricky Hatton recently.
Yeah, and Ricky's been in the gym, but he's not going to fight. We all know he's not going to fight. He's not going to get licensed, even if he didn't have had a mental problem history of that. He still won't get licensed. He's 54. End of story. It's not going to happen. And let's just hope that he finds another role in boxing that give him something to do and give him something to focus on, and focus, all those things that he misses about boxing, and get himself back involved and make something of himself in boxing. It's a great shame. Obviously that was his glory days were in boxing, and that's where he wants to be now.
I mean, regardless of how his situation obviously pans out. I mean, the board. Sorry, go on.
The thing which I noticed then when he talked about Anthony Joshua, apparently he made reference to Anthony Joshua. Or was it Eddie Hearn said he'd knock, or Barry Hearn said that he'd knock Anthony Joshua, knock him out in a couple of rounds. Let's all get real. Frank Bruno at his best and Anthony Joshua at his best right now, as Anthony Joshua is, Frank Bruno would be a big favourite at their best. Big favourite. the levels that they fought at as professionals, the type of opposition they've been in, it'd be. But it's not going to happen because they're not at their best, and it's not going to happen. You know, that fight's never going to happen. But I think that was the sort of catalyst that got all this story going.
Well, regardless of how this situation obviously pans out, I think Frank Bruno's position in the history of British boxing, you know, is safe forever.
Of course it is. Never say die. 3 times the world title. Then, you know, finally we got him in, and he won a world title. Oliver McCoy. It was a fabulous night at Wembley.
Frank, we're gonna obviously go to your card now on March the 12th. Obviously, some news you just told me there, which I had no idea about, which is very exciting. That on that card will feature RIGONDEAUX against Dickens.
That's right. RIGONDEAUX's making his debut over here, and he's going to be fighting, did you say, Dickens? So it's a great card. And we've got Teti on there as well as the great all-British world title fight. So it's a fabulous card up there. RIGONDEAUX, a guy that nobody wants to fight except Dickens.
Quite incredible. I think, I mean, a lot of the super bantamweights clearly state that he's the best at the weight. You ask through most of them, but they're yet to sort of, our British ones, they're yet to go on them. So Dickens will be that person. Well,
the winner of Quigg and Frampton has to fight him. It's been mandated, so the fans are going to get a chance to see the guy who the winner of that fight's got to fight. So that's great. And who knows, you know, Dickens, he's in his hometown. Anything can happen in boxing. We've seen huge upsets, and he'll be a massive underdog going into it. But who knows, you know, he might cause a big upset.
So Zolani Tete, who you recently signed as well, who we all know from an unfortunate, obviously, situation with Paul Butler is known for now, but you've signed him up, and you think he can make a big impact? I
think he will. I mean, you know, in a couple of fights, he's going to be campaigning at bantamweight, and in a couple of fights, we'll have him in for a world title fight. I'm looking forward to working with him. He's, you know, as we all know, he's a quality fighter. Paul's on the card as well, and Paul, you know, is going to get this fight out of the way. Then Paul's going to be in a real meaningful big fight after this one. So a lot of things happening. It's quite an important night for, you know, the fighters I'm involved with on the 12th of March, and obviously we're going to see some of the best talent around. And out of those, after the results of those fights, we'll see hopefully some seriously big fights set up for the summer.
This week, you're in association with Macklins Gym Marbar in Dublin for a show that features Gary Corcoran versus Danny Butler and the likes of Jamie Kavanagh, etc. So a good little card there at the National Stadium.
It is a good little card. You know, unfortunately, we had an injury to Selkirk, which is a real bummer in more ways than one. But you know, Gary's there. He's got a good fight with Butler. It's a decent opponent for him. And if he comes through that fight, I'm hoping we set up him and Liam Williams for a couple of months' time. Which is another big fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Liam Williams the other day. Monday just gone, Frank. Obviously, there was a press conference in Birmingham for Sam Egginson and Bradley Skeet, which match we won the purse bids for. But obviously, Andy Allen was there, and that's a good fight for the 5th of March.
Yeah, it's
in
a
Birmingham.
Decent fight. Yeah, it's a good fight for the fans, and you know, it's a good fight for Bradley Skeet.
Believe he beats him?
Yeah, well, otherwise I'll pull him out.
Fair enough. Also, another fight that's been made, obviously, between the two camps is between Miles Shinkwin and Jose Burton for the British title on the undercard of Quigg and Frampton.
Yeah.
So, and that was not a purse bid situation. So.
No, look, I've made it very clear all along, and I'm not repeating myself. I suppose I'm repeating myself, but we have no problem making fights. If I feel my guy can win the fight, and it suits my man, he'll fight on anybody's card. You know, I have a history of doing that. I'm not the one who stops people from fighting. Let's get it clear. You've just, you know, you've touched on this a few times. Not a problem for me, you know. And hopefully, my man comes through. It's a tough fight, but if he comes through that, then we've got a big fight set up against Tom Baker, and that's the way what we're trying to do. The winner goes in with Tom Baker.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So, You've got obviously this week Dublin. So will your next show after that be on the 12th of March? Then there's nothing in between.
12th of March. Then we've got shows. We've got a show. We're probably going to do a show on Good Friday, April, and then we're going to do a show on the 30th of April. But I can't get into the details. I was hoping I'd have that all done, but hopefully I'll have that all sorted out by Friday or over the weekend. And the dust has settled and we know where we are with Billy Joe Saunders and Liam Smith, because obviously we're working on something that's the Amir Khan threw a spanner in the works. So we're working on that, but we're making an announcement, and we will be doing a very big show then, and then we'll announce a massive fight for summer, a big fight that we're putting together.
I was going to come on to this. Obviously, we know that recently Golovkin made a trip to the UK, and it was kind of under the assumption that, you know, with him going over to West Ham, that it had something to do with a potential fight with Billy Joe, but that wasn't the case. That wasn't the reasons why they came over.
No, I think he went with William. He's, you know, who's quite close to the camp, and I think they went as his guest to West Ham. Nothing could happen at West Ham because as soon as the season's over, it's being flattened. They're moving off to the new stadium and they're flattening West Ham. So went there for the football.
Did you sort of seek out any talks while he was here?
Yeah, Tom Loeffler spoke with my office on a few occasions, and we've told him what we would like to happen, and I'm quite sure in time it will happen. But as you say, it's got to be at the right time, and it's got to be at the time what suits. And this is all I'm interested in: what suits Billy Joe Saunders, not what suits anybody else. What suits Billy Joe Saunders, and if it suits him, then and when it suits him, then we'll be ready to move.
Has there been any more talks regarding potential rematch with Mr. Eubank Jr.?
There was some talk, but that's all it's been at the moment. Talk.
So when I listen to you talk about a potential, obviously, super fight for the summer, I'm assuming it's going to involve Billy Joe Saunders.
Well, you would think so. I would think so.
I'm trying to think of, obviously...
Well, don't think you've got a cough and a cold and you hurt your head and you have to go and lay down afterwards and put some ice on it. Don't think too much. It'll all come out next week.
It'll come out as soon as next week?
Yeah.
That's fair enough. But before the summer, do you anticipate Billy Joe Saunders being out?
Well, it depends what happens. I mean, you know, and it depends on the date, and if I can... I'm looking that we can get him out, you know. The objective was that he fought in February, but unfortunately he wasn't ready to fight in February. So now, as I say, if depending on what happens in the summer, if we slip a fight in, then we will do that, you know, to keep him match fit. But it'll all work out this weekend.
Okay. Frank, who's the best heavyweight in the country at the moment?
In the UK?
Yeah.
Well, based upon what, you know, you got to say head and shoulders, and he is head and shoulders above him physically, is Tyson Fury. I can't make a comment on David Haye at the moment because, you know, the opposition, quite rightly, at first fight back, you know, it was a knockover, but he looks well, he looks fit. He obviously is always fit, but he looks quite confident, and I'll just see a bit more of him for pass an opinion on that. See Dylan White challenge and take on Anthony Joshua, and you know, as I've said before, you know, that left a few little question marks there as to that need answering. You know, there's a couple of things there. I know he's got a big heart. We've seen that in the amateurs when he's come from behind, and you know, and what really impressed me is what he did in World Championships all those years ago. And it was in Azerbaijan, I think it was, when they had the title there. I mean, he's got a big heart. There's no doubt about that. But there are a few things there that, you know, you look at and you think, they could be exploited. They're not doing a Chisora fight, so I understand. They say it's over money. I don't know whether that's the case or not.
I think Derek ruled it out, and Eddie Hearn ruled it out over the weekend.
Oh well, whatever.
I think Derek's going to fight Pulev now in
yeah. So that is
the European title.
Yeah, that is what it is. And Anthony Joshua, you know, I think they've got a little bit of a what do you do now? You can't, you know, if I was them, I would not be making him the main event. although financially in the deal they've struck for him, they've got to do that. Who are you going to put him in with that is what you'd say is a real live opponent? You know, the only live opponent he's had since he's turned pro has been Dylan. That's the only, and I don't mean that being disrespectful. We all know the game, you know, bringing fighters through and they learn their trade and their craft. But now you expect him at this stage of the game to be really stepping up against the opposition. So it's going to be interesting to see who they're going to put him in with.
I mean, I asked you that question because it's interesting because everyone's got their varied opinions. I mean, for me, you have to say Tyson Fury.
But he is. You have to say he is. I mean, that is fact. He is the world champion.
Yeah.
He weren't the greatest fight in the world to watch, but his tactics were spot on. I didn't think he'd get a decision over there. I really did not think that they would give him a decision if he went to 12 rounds. I always felt he would give him, his style would give him problems, but he got the decision. And you know, who's going to beat him here? Who's going to beat him here at the moment? Any of those names we've all mentioned. You know, him and Anthony Joshua. If Anthony Joshua gets him on the chin, can knock him out. Same as if he catches anybody on the chin. But it's what happens when they get caught. And it's what happens when they're up against somebody who's actually got a boxing brain and so forth. So I just think that, you know, I think he is the best heavyweight in the world at the moment. And I honestly think, having seen Wilder's last couple of fights, I was very impressed when he won the world title. He answered a lot of questions. He went the distance, no problem with his stamina. He did all those things. He took a good shot in that fight when he won the title, and we all know he can bang. And we all know that, you know, being a big puncher can change a fight round. But if boxing was about who punches the hardest, you wouldn't need judges. And in my opinion, a really good boxer will always beat a puncher. You know, you see fighters when they start off early in their career, suddenly they're knocking everybody over, gone, they're banged up, all the big punch, and then guys start going the distance with them. And there's a reason for that, because they're a bit cuter. And they're in with people who've got, you know, who are higher caliber and got a good boxing brain. So for me, one thing about him, Tyson, he's got a very, very good boxing brain, and I think Peter Fury's done a good job of it.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, and what I gauged that on is the way he handled Derek Chisora. I mean, he handled him. Derek never won a second of that fight, and I really thought that Derek was going to give him a real tough fight, and he didn't. He really impressed me that night.
Ask about David Price. Obviously, Price's defeats in his career twice to Tony Thompson, who subsequently failed drug tests after that, and now Erkan Tepa, who knocked David Price out as big drug scandals come out about Tepa. You've got to feel for David Price.
I feel sorry for David Price, but it doesn't take away the point that he got knocked out. And I don't think it's the drugs enhanced the punching power or anything of Tepa. I mean, if he got caught by anybody, I think David Price gets knocked out. We've seen that in his career. Tepa should be thrown out the game. You know, there's no room for what he's done. Throw him out the game completely. And, you know, they'll declare those as no contest, I'm quite sure, on his record. But it's not going to stop what you've seen. You know, we all know what the strengths and weaknesses are of boxers. You know, I think, you know, a real good boxing fan will know that. And we know what David's strengths are. He's another example. He's got a tremendous punch. He's got a big punch. He's got a good jab. But unfortunately, as they say, you can't put muscles on chins. And he hasn't, you know, in that department, he's, you know, he struggles a bit.
But it would have been an interesting scenario. I know what you're saying. What we're watching is what is happening, but without obviously the use of those steroids or whatever.
No, it's a fact of life. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely right, and it's very difficult to sort of try and not make a case for it, because there is no case you can make. And then obviously some people think that steroids do enhance performances, but I've seen guys, and you've seen guys who are on that. It hasn't made them a better fighter in any shape or form. Some guys take it, and it doesn't make you know. You've got to have some ability. You've got to have something about him. And it doesn't make. I don't think it makes you punch harder. You're either a puncher or you're not. And unfortunately for David Price, is that you know, he. Sometimes you'd like to see him dig a little bit deeper when he fights.
I mean, with regards to bans, we've seen different fighters be banned for different periods of times. Should there just be one rule?
I think it's difficult. I mean, some of the, you know, a couple of fighters that I've been involved with, they've gone and bought stuff over the counter in a chemist for colds and things, and there are banned substances are in those what you can actually buy over the counter. So it depends what it actually is. I mean, if you are actually doing, say, what Larry, who was with me,
yeah.
what he was doing, then out the game altogether. Throw him out. You know, that's blatantly cheating. I don't think there's any room to let anybody back from that. I really don't. You know, I mean, if you sort of look at the comparison with athletics, you know, all what's going on at the moment, all the huge scandals in athletics about them all juicing up and all what they're doing and what they're not doing. I mean, you know, they let Ben Johnson back not once, twice. So what are you doing? You're not sending a message out, are you? You're saying, you know, right, we'll slap your wrist, you have a couple of years ban or whatever it is. But they let him back in twice. So in boxing, we should learn from athletics. If it's you are purposely dealing in this stuff, you know, you're taking this whilst you're a professional fighter, and let's get it right. This is not helping you to run faster. This is not helping you to jump higher. You know, you're in a fight. You know, this is a dangerous enough business as it is without people taking stuff that they feel will enhance their performance. Just chuck them out, throw them out, tear their licenses up, bang, goodbye, off you go.
All right. Well, listen, Frank. Thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. Unless you have anything else you want to add.
I can't think of anything, mate. Can you think of anything?
Not really, not at the moment. But yeah, there's always next week, so
yeah,
we're good. All eyes on, like I said, Dublin now, live on BoxNation this week.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
So
yeah. We've got some good shows coming up on there in the next few months. Yeah, some good stuff on. So shame about the postponement, but we've got even a bigger and better show on March 12th now. We've got some real good quality name fighters added to the bill.
Can't wait. All right,
good.
Frank, thank you very much for talking to us, and
mate.
we'll catch up with you soon.
Lovely.